Hope everyone's well. Um, just dropping in to share some ideas and concepts around just healing, I guess, or like feeling your feelings, feeling your pain. Um, Often we need help to get to our pain because we're avoiding it. Um, and then a lot of people have a hard time asking for help, and so they push past it, and it tries to present itself in different ways, and people continue to find ways to avoid facing it, and it just it's not something we can override uh, indefinitely, and it can get really raw. We all have wounds, and it's not easy to get to them sometimes, and then having the support in place to sort of navigate that wound is not always easy to find either. But we're not, we're here for uh, to discover and experience feelings that are not just within the normal range. At least we have that option. Very few people venture away from the normal range of feelings. But getting to the core of your wound and being able to be in a raw place with it and have people in place to support you can be so absolutely incredible and allows you to understand what's been going on the whole time in your story, why things keep happening the way they do. This isn't something to dwell on, it's just something to access, right? So that it can be understood, felt, and released. And but the rawness can be rather intense and uncomfortable, and so people don't want to feel that raw, and so they tend to avoid the deeper levels of healing that are available until some event in their life will, will represent these opportunities. um, so the type of self-care that is available to us isn't just the kind that you read about in from disciplined people. There's a deeper type of self-care that most people don't know about, because we assume that there's only so much depth of perception, depth of feeling, depth of healing. There's only so much access to ecstasy, to intensity. And so we place these limitations based on our own fragile ego projecting into the collective field. But there's a way to heal that program so that that limitation isn't something that you're upholding, if that makes sense. Our imagination and our creativity is so powerful that we can use it to do incomprehensible things with our time here. But in order to be able to do that, we have to kind of clean house. We have to take care of all the things that are out of order, unprocessed, undealt with, so that we can be able to zoom in on and pay attention to the areas that offer sustainable development of our willpower, of our ability to interpret and see energy directly. Being able to see energy directly means that you've learned to become energy, to become less physical and more abstract. All kinds of these discoveries can be made in the wilderness or in a dark room some people need psychedelics in order to discover these things, but there are ways to get there without taking medicines. But ultimately, even a lot of people in the psychedelic world are avoiding their wounding and attempting to move past it without dealing with it, without feeling it. Or they get to their wound and they get caught in it and they stay in it and they rehash it and resurface it and remain bitter, jaded, angry, frustrated at the fact that they're in the predicament they are. And this is ego, this is victimhood. We all vacillate between being victims and being victors, where we put ourselves above or below. We compare ourselves, we judge ourselves, we limit ourselves. The reality is you're all good. You're exactly within this. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I know that it can be really uncomfortable, but it takes discomfort in order to experience feelings that are beyond the normal range. And so you're being ushered into something. Your ego may not allow you to accept help or accept solutions because you've become familiar with this suffering. And to move beyond the suffering means that you would have to cross a threshold that you're terrified of crossing. We're not all that different. We all kind of fall within this model, this blueprint, not giving ourselves permission to access the full intensity of our imagination and creativity. Our fear of being seen, of being loved, of being rejected. We're unique beings capable of the most powerful relationships. But a powerful relationship is not going to be one that only has pure affection. It's going to also have, it's going to expose the areas in which you are undeveloped and wounded just by being in a relationship that is intimate. Your vulnerability, your ability to be vulnerable, the way in which you project onto the other person, your expectations of the relationship, all of these things surface. It exposes the program that's running you, and it exposes all of the history that you carry, your baggage. That's why shamans focus on erasing personal history through the recapitulation, so that they can be present, not living in the past, not projecting into the future. That's the only way to see energy, is to be awake and alert and alive on a level that would allow you to have the most beautiful experience of stopping your thoughts and allowing your perception to shift to a place in which you can interact directly with the energetic universe. Primarily, the Earth Mother is, the sun is also communicative. These relationships that we have with these brilliant, beautiful beings. But the Earth Mother has so many ways in which she can reveal to you, to me, to others, a different type of communication and a different type of interaction. So dreaming awake is where the adventure really begins. Your ability to live in heightened awareness and go out into the world and free yourself from the limitations of who you've been by doing something unique and different with your time and energy. It could just be slowing down, stopping into different parts of the world, breaking pattern by going in a direction that you don't normally go, canceling things and taking adventures, and just, follow the mood. There is a part of you that wants to become wild again and have access to your spontaneity and your synchronicities, your ability to read signs and follow omens and tell the difference between the ones that are guiding you home and the ones that are guiding you to your ego, deeper into the programming. My elder used to say there is a war between the light and the dark, and that he called the light and the dark the other side, and that we, have the opportunity to walk the middle path, to not get ensnared in the spiritual warfare. And there is a powerful distraction element in place to make sure that you're constantly tapped into story, drama. So everything that's happening on the world stage is pure theater. It's human harvesting. It's capturing your attention, making sure you're focused on these things, rather than discovering what is available in the lucidity realms, and your ability to enjoy and interact with the earth. If people understood how incredible our perceptual opportunities are, they would learn to make room and space for deeper levels of meditating and going past, receiving silence. It's coming for us. Every one of us is going to encounter silence. Usually it happens when you die, because most people don't have the courage to learn to live in silence. But we are moving back towards silent knowledge from the place of reason. We used to live in the place of silent knowledge. We ended up being through some sort of event, some very unique type of interference arrived and moved our base perception from a place of magical interaction to a place of petty reason, which is hardening our energy. We're being convinced more and more of the physical world. And there is a physical element to this. Your physical body is magical. It's a temple, and you can learn to turn it into pure energy and transfer your consciousness to anything you might be able to discover, because there's many layers to this onion. But ultimately, shamans learn to navigate these layers of the onion and then prepare themselves for a final boost. When it's time for them to leave this world, they activate and align with their sorcerer group or party at the same time, usually when the Nawal has finished his recapitulation. Then he prepares his party for a departure, and they walk right out of this world as a cohesive unit, because they learned to be telepathic, they learned how to move in sync, they learned how to stay in silence as a group and to do group dreaming. And we all can learn to do these things. But in order to learn to do those things, one would have to spend quite a long time restructuring their energy and their lives, so that it is suitable for this type of lifestyle. And the Toltec journey sounds incredible. I'm not necessarily trying to do what they've done or what they're doing, but I'm discovered that through the type of preparation that they made use of in order to prepare their beings is the same type of preparation I'm navigating toward as a means to cultivate my dreaming attention. I'm going super slow. I'm watching a lot of people try to expedite the process, and it's because they're wounded. I can, it's because, and me too. There's parts of me where I realize I'm trying to override something and not dealing with the elements of my pain that are needed, but I can admit that, which is what makes me different than people that cannot. I can't even hear it. They will attack you if you expose their ego, and that's just how easy it is to figure out what's going on and how this all works. It's just by being courageous enough to ask the questions and to not be afraid of interacting with people. But it's powerful, thing to be uh, in the presence of powerful people. Even if it's just like on an online forum, you can feel people's energy. You can learn a lot by putting yourself in situations like this. And I was told not to engage with these trolls and monsters online and by my teachers, and I took heed of that advice for a long period of time. But yeah, having gone in the last few years, I was kicked out of some really powerful groups, and I'm, being it's being said that I am making things up and that my history is not that I'm being inaccurate because it's I'm a threat to some of these people because of the questions I ask and the things that I bring up, and it's intense. It's a trip to be in a situation like that where you get called in to do something, and because of that, in this world, if people have a powerful voice, they can reach a lot of people and tell them things about you, and that's why my teacher said not to do these kind of things. I get that it's a risk reward dynamic, but I try not to. Rather than live by rules, I live by feelings. Being called into certain conversations and following that thread has led me to great understanding about humanity, about people. It's not something I could have read about or learned about by hearing someone else's story. I needed to get kind of beat up and feel that intensity, and to be, in a group where a lot of people are listening to when you're writing something and people are really responding and asking great questions, and then to have that group kick you out, it feels a little bit like having a muzzle put on you, like, whoa, and then to have them people say that person is crazy, stay away from them, they're lying. That's intense. And then, to be kicked out for life too. So this whole, it's like being kept from an entire village where you're not allowed to enter. Just for asking questions, just for, not being a follower. But hey, it is what it is. I have learned a lot from it. I'm thankful for the experience. I hope that these people reconsider, because there's just, I'm continuing to be called into these places, and I'm not being able to respond to that call because I'm not allowed. So it's a weird dynamic to be in. But the reason I brought this up is because there's a lot of people that get into the Toltec stuff are really spun out people. and they have experiences that make them think that they're special, because doing that work can bring experiences that are pretty rare. But it's that thinking that you're special, and that thinking that you've experienced something way beyond what anyone else has, and then putting yourself above people and then speaking down to them, and then, you know, turning it into a cult. It's just very common. It's the way in which the program and the interference makes sure that people that have discovered the secrets of the Toltec path, it ensures that they stay in the programming, that they don't, that they can, that the flyers make use of you no matter what you're doing. They're going to use you because that's what they do. And there's no way around this. We're all being interfered with. And it's a very disturbing thing to come to terms with, but our thoughts are not our own. It's a program that's running. It's very difficult to discover and understand this. And so, even when you learn to stay in silence for a long time, like some of these really powerful men, when they come out of silence, their ego is becomes bigger and bigger. And it's typically because they're avoiding the recapitulation. They're just trying to do things in the realm of power without having really gone and faced their wound, which will be exposed if you do the shadow work, if you journal or write or get into your memories in a particular way, or if you recapitulate, which is the most efficient way. But it's not easy to recapitulate. It takes usually quite a few years of building your energy up to be able to focus like that. Um, and that's what the magical passes are for. They there's energy all around you that you can beckon, and it will become available to you when you start showing this realm what you're interested in by just giving your time and attention to things that will take care that are self-care based. um, Ultimately the goal for Toltecs though is to learn dreaming, to be able to use their time to traverse, travel, build their willpower, and learn how to make to cross gates of dreaming, right? To be able to move objects in your dreams, to be able to fly in a very powerful way, like at any point in your dreams, to become conscious that you're dreaming, and then to go into other worlds and have conversations with other beings, such as your parallel being. There is such incredible pressure to make sure that we don't discover our ability to do this. It's just the way it is. There's no way around that. So, again, shamans do very unique things for long periods of time, knowing what they're waiting for. And they wait patiently because they know that the reason it's not happening yet is because they're not ready. But you learn to hang out in your feelings more and more until you can stay in a sustainable state of silence, and eventually things will start to be revealed to you in a beautiful way. But when you try to force, control it, override it, use the mind instead of feel with your gut and lead from your heart. So the path of heart isn't something that comes naturally to a lot of people. But for those of us that it does, enjoy it. Embrace the beauty of this realm. It's a realm of terror and beauty. The terror part is realizing that it's a world of power, that there are forces in place that are running interference, that we've been kept from discovering what we truly are. That's terrifying. but it's an incredible breakthrough when you really understand it, because it helps make sense of this world and why things are the way they are. And that allows you to eventually become detached and indifferent and observe it as a witness. And then your seeing will kick in. You'll start to know what to do with your time here. You'll start to be shown, what truly matters, where to place your attention, how to heal your heart. Because without a healed heart, without a healed body and being, it's, learning, going into dream worlds wouldn't be sustainable. So since our time here is limited, we're gonna want adventure. That doesn't mean you have to go do crazy shit in the physical world. You can have adventure by the way in which you interact with this energetic, the dream world, things of this nature. Follow your heart, take care of yourself, and listen to what your body's asking for. Thank you, friends.